Hey Uriah, you want to do a bass on a track? Sure. So they sent me a Dropbox link. Let me click on that. Click on it. Boom. Opens up over here in Safari. And let's see. There it is. I could listen to it, but let me just do a direct download. Just go here. Direct download. Boom. It goes down. Hey, there it is in my downloads folder. It's called Give Thanks. I'm just going to put it in a folder here, get it out of my downloads folder. There it is. So what we're going to do is go over here to Logic. New session, and then just simply drag this into, I made a track called Import here in my template, but it can be just anything. You just drag it in. I drag it right to the beginning at 1. Now this one comes up with a special thing. You don't always get this. My template is at 44.1 sample rate, and this is at 48. It shows me that she likes to record at 48, so I will change this to 48 and record my bass tracks. Also that, so change project. Boom, and there it is. So now I just have to give it a listen and then see, how it works. Let me turn off this metronome. 120 is not going to match it. What I could do is go over to here where there's more rhythm, and I have on this track a BPM counter. Let's let it figure out the BPM. Still figuring it out. All right. Usually it gets a little quicker than that. All right, it says 97. Cool. So let me hit stop, and I can just go right up here. If you don't have this, the tempo up here, you can always right-click, customize, and you get all these great options for your control bar. But since I already have the tempo up here, I can change it from 120 to 97. Enter. Boom, and I can close out a BPM. Don't need it anymore. Another way you could have done that, go over to here to tempo, and you can change tempo at 97 at the beginning of the file. And if there are any tempo changes, you could go and add them in here at different points in your file. Now, this file is ready for bass tracking. Cool. So what I do is, I go over here. I made a track called UD Bass. You can just make it from scratch if you want. Call it whatever you want. I hit record, and then return. It goes to the beginning. I'll record along. Now here's an added step for organization. I've gone through and listened to parts of this song, and see, that sounds like a chorus to me. I'm gonna see, like over here, it probably, there it is again, and it looks like over here again. So what I want to do is use markers and label these parts. It'll make it just organizationally a bit easier. So I'm gonna expand that, and right here is your marker here in Logic. So I'm going to click new marker and call this intro. Boom. Intro, and you can see from the shape of the waveform there, I could label that vocals in, but it's still kind of the intro to me. There's an intro. Some cymbals and snaps are added. Maybe I'll stay out there. Yeah, it's still intro. Or we could call it verse. I mean, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually call this one verse because that's where I'm going to come in. I'll stay out of the intro unless I put any diddles, but I'll call this verse 1. Boom. And then this we already figured out right here. Right there at bar 23. I'll get this right on bar 23. And again, click marker and go. I'll use CH for chorus. And let's see what happens after the chorus. Little vamp. All right, that little vamp is right there, right at 31. So new marker and vamp. So, or you could call it breakdown, mellow, whatever you want to call it. Just kind of helps when you're going through. Verse 2. I'm thankful for the blessing. Right there. Add. Boom. Verse 2. Right, and right there it mellows out again. So I'll put another marker. I could say mellow. I could say, and I'll just put BD for breakdown. And there it is. I've got all of these markers which will help me kind of organize my tracking. Next step, bass selection. Now that I usually listen through to a track a little bit to see, what bass is going to work best on this. Funky slap bass, no. But I do have a nice P bass with flat wounds on it. That could go really good with this. That's probably a really great choice. I have a fretless bass if I wanted to get more expressive in the bass region, but I'm not sure if this song quite needs that. So what I'm going to do is go over here. I'm going to use this one. This is called the Lakeland Decade bass. And what I'm doing, instead of more of that vintage tone that a P bass would give, this bass is kind of along the indie rock vibe. So I'm gonna say the indie rock, kind of a throatier, a nice like pronounced mid range, and maybe with a pick. This will be a good choice for this song. So this is going to be my raw run through. I have not played along with this song at all yet, and sometimes it's good to just track, what your instincts are, what your first notes are going to be. Also, it's good to maybe throw a tuner on here. Good enough. So close that. I could even close this bar here if I want. Still got my markers, and we are record enabled. Can I hear it? I can. And then I'll reach down here. I'll hit the R key, and it starts. So I'm going to leave the intro blank. Both pickups fully all the way up here, so it's not too throaty. If I wanted it throatier and more indie rock, I would go to just the front pickup. Let's figure out what these chords are. A, F, probably C, and repeat. Sometimes I'm down, sometimes it's hard. So just long notes there. Questions I have, must there be pain? Why does suffering exist on this plane? Now here comes that chorus, so I'll pump some eighth notes. So I close my eyes and nice and tender. This life is bright, our love is good. I don't know why I switched to fingers there, but it seems to be right. I'm thankful for the blessings of this world. It's not perfect, but we've got what we need. I wish that everyone had the chance. Now get ready for that chorus again. Same chords. Get that pick back up. Bridge, and I don't know what the chord goes to. G, F, G, F, C. Do a little movement. And that's it. I'll go back through, I'll listen to it, I'll fix the bridge where I was figuring out the chord changes to go to the G, and I'll evaluate the performance to see if this was the right bass, the right choices I made with long notes versus eighth notes in the bridge, fingers versus pick, and just all the evaluations that you want to take into consideration. And I could probably use this track, but I'm going to record it again just so I know everything is nice and tight, and I'm already anticipating every change. So that is the quick tutorial on how to get a good, you know what? Let's go one more chapter. So you've recorded your performance. Say, that is the performance. I've gone back, I've either doctored it or just re-recorded based on my evaluations and readjusted and re-recorded. Now you need to get this file to the client. They don't need this, they gave me that. They just need this raw bass. Now there's two ways to go about it, and there's a couple considerations to be made. First way and the easiest way is to give them this raw file, this raw untouched file. You can literally right click on it and go to export as audio files. If it's not here in your recents, you can go right here, export as audio file. And when you do that, it will give you the option. So here's a WAV file. I was recording in 24 bits, so I'll change that. And then, and that's it. And normalize I will usually keep off. That's just a good rule of thumb. You can look up other normalized features that it does, and sometimes they're harmful, sometimes they're helpful. We're gonna keep that off. And then hit export. I can choose, where is it? Give thanks. And hit export, and it will go there. I'm gonna cancel that and not give the raw file. Reason being, over here on my channel strip, I have a couple plugins on here, and I'll show you what I use. And my thoughts and my theory on this is to not go too ham on it. It's going to be mixed by a professional mixer, hopefully, in the end, and mastered. So you don't want to have too much going on the bass where they can't do anything with it, but I don't want to give them the raw file either. I want it to sound a little more polished and professional. And one of the best ways of doing this here in Logic or in any DAW, the first thing I do, I like to run it through, this is a Neve clone. And there's barely any EQ going on here, but it does add just a vibe, a sound. I've found it works pretty much on everything I do. I run every bass track I do through this Neve. Close that out. Next in the channel strip is a compressor. Now the compressor, if you know how to use one, it's really powerful. If you don't, you can go through some presets and see what sounds good. It's gonna even out the sound, make some of the lighter, tender moments audible. It'll bring them up. And maybe where I'm digging in really heavy with the pick on the chorus, it'll make those even so that there's no wild hairs sticking out, no peaks. And this compressor will catch all that, compress it into a nice area, and give a nice polished bass track. And then the final thing in my channel strip here that I use is the channel strip EQ, the one that's built into Logic. Now you'll see I have nothing on it. I didn't need to fix anything. I thought it sounded great out of the first EQ in the compressor, so I left this blank. But if the tone still needed additional shaping in the end, I just use this. It's really easy. So to get that file, if I were to export it, it wouldn't have all that fun stuff on it. So we want to make a bounce. What I'll do is select that track, hit solo, and then now here's a little thing to consider. When you make a bounce, right now I have this whole cycle region selected right up here at the top. That's nice, so it's going to bounce from there to there, and I know it's just that long. Perfect. Right here on your stereo out are two little interlinked circles right there. And that means it's going to make a stereo bass track, which there's nothing wrong with. You can give them a stereo bass track. I have no stereo things going on. Both sides are going to be exactly the same, and they'll be able to use the track, no problem. But we're used to seeing bass tracks in mono, so I'll click that. It turns into a single circle, and it will export the bass track in mono. However, there is one additional step to make sure that it's in mono. If you do just that, you're still going to get a stereo bass track. So I've got it all. I've got that selected. I've got this soloed. I have that. Let's hit Command B for bounce. We're bouncing. Here's some options here. This one is cool, MP3, but we don't want to make an MP3. An MP3 of maybe the final comp would be great, and it's a small size, file size, and you can send it easily. but I'm still trying to get the raw uncompressed audio from the bass through those plugins. So I'm going to choose PCM, which allows me to choose different file types, and Wave is going to be your most utilized one. This will be able to be used in any DAW, not just Logic. They import it, they drag it all the way to the right, and it's perfect. It should line up in Ableton, in Reaper, in Pro Tools, in Logic, or whatever. So it's already set to 48 because we did that in the beginning. And here is where it will, if it's interleaved, it's still going to give you a stereo file. So I hit split, and now what it ends up doing is it gives me 2 mono files. So I'm going to hit OK. And it's already in this folder, and it's not called bass comp. This one will be called, say, UD bass. Enter. We're bouncing. We are bouncing. And what you end up getting are, let me zoom in here. You'll see there at the bottom, UD bass, L, and R. Those are the 2 stereo files. So I'm just going to take R. They're exactly the same. I'm going to Command delete and just get rid of it. And then I'm going to take this one, UD bass L, and just rename it so it doesn't have the L, it doesn't have the extra period. Now it is UD bass Wave. It's got my plugins on it, and you'll notice it is 29.3 megabytes. It was double that when it was stereo. And so if file size is a consideration and you don't want to give them stereo file, this is how you do it. Give them that nice mono bass file. From there, as you can see, I'm working directly to Dropbox, a folder that is a blessed Dropbox folder here. So I can right click on it and I can sync this. It's local and in the cloud, or cloud only. I can choose either. So it's already up there. I can easily just right click, copy Dropbox link, copies it, and then I can paste that into a text message, an email. They can download it. All is good to go. So that is my process. Thanks for hanging in with me for doing a pretty simple track. It's a really nice track. And that's about it. Hope you enjoyed.